Welcome back here for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 963, we're going to talk about the Goose Mother. Now, before I get into this, I would like to state that sometimes, y'all know I build a insane amount of decks, but there are some times when I come across a legend that I'm like, you know what? This deck has no budget. Generally, about one legend per set does that to me. And the Goose Mother was it for Wilds of Eldraine. So, here's my Goose Mother. So, I don't normally build at this level at this budget level. This is not a budget deck. Just FYI. Okay, so, the Goose Mother. X of green and a blue. For a 2/2 flyer that enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. So it's already, if you just want to pay the green and the blue, you can get a 2/2 flyer. But we never ever want to do that. When Goose Mother enters the battlefield, create half X food tokens rounded up. Whenever Goose Mother attacks, you may sacrifice a food to draw a card. So the Goose Mother wants to be large. First off, Bird Hydra, absolutely hilarious. The Goose Mother wants to be large and wants to attack. So in blue and green and Simic, how do we do that? Well, it already comes in with 1/1 counters, so we went full tilt on +1/+1 counters. But first, let's get to our card draw, shall we? I've got a few categories here and a few cards that are not. We have a Sylvan Library, which I am not responsible enough to play with this card, I'll admit. Because for me, it says during your upkeep, lose 8 life, draw 2 extra cards. Most of the time, that's what I do because, what's the life? The only one that matters is the last one, right? We have, because we are going to have probably large creatures with the Goose Mother. I have the draw cards equal to power cards, Rishkar's Expertise, Return of the Hot Stepper, and then the Soul's Majesty. So, all great cards. And then, of course, our good friend, Mr. Ristic Study. Man, from this angle, it's not. Our good friend Ristic Study is pretty good. Cast a spell, especially if you can get it out there early. So, let's go through our ramp, shall we? We're going to start with Bird of Paradise. Just a good old-fashioned, bird. We have the Gilded Goose as another use for the food, right? So, and our Soul Ring. Then, of course, Mana Rocks, Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, Prismatic Lens, Sky Diamond, and Thought Vessel is going to help hold those cards because we're drawing some cards, right? We've got Kodama's Reach, Rampant Growth, Cultivate, and Sky Shroud Claim, because it's all about how soon we can get the Goose Mother out, right? So, we have, let's go with our enchantments first, because that's really what it's about. Eldraine made a lot of these enchantments more accessible, i.e. cheaper, so we have the double courts, we have the Court of Vantress, that, okay, at the beginning of your upkeep, choose up to one other target enchantment or artifact. If you're the monarch, you may create a token that's a copy of it. If you're not the monarch, you may have this to become a copy, so it retains that ability. So, you may create a token that's a copy of it. So we want to maintain the monarch, right? Yeah. If you can make token copies of enchantments, what would you do? We'll get to that later. And then the other Court of Garenbrig, put 2 1/1 counters among up to 2 target creatures, and if you're the monarch, double the number of 1/1 counters on your team. Double the counters. I like that sound. That sounds really good. So we're going to play with a doubling season. And also a branching evolution. Primal Vigor. Parallel Lives, Hardened Scales. I also like the copy enchantment. The copy enchantment's insanely cheap right now, but I like those because you copy any one of those and it's silly. Yeah, silly. And then, As Foretold, I do have 4 Proliferate cards in the deck, so As Foretold can get up there. Not as quickly as Tecuthal, but it can get up there pretty quick. And then, one of the best enchantments to copy, Force Fruition. Now, this is a very... You cannot just throw out Force Fruition if you don't have a plan, because people will kill you, or kill it. And the worst thing in the world is when the player you play Force Fruition, the player right after you says, okay, I'll play my Naturalize on your Force Fruition. I'll draw 7 cards and nobody else will. That player has a huge advantage. So you want the Force Fruition to stay out there. And if you can make copies of it, because there comes a point in time where people start analyzing how... Because invariably somebody at the table is going to be like, okay, I'll play my Soul Ring, my Arcane Signet. And you're like, hey, you're drawing for each one. And they think they can play out of it. But it's just not happening. We have Ozolith 2, the Shattered Spire, Revenge of the Ozolith. And then we have, of course, the original Ozolith to hold those counters while we're not using them, which we're probably going to be using. Then we have creatures, because we're in so deep right now with counters and tokens, thanks to the doubling season. All these creatures deal with counters or tokens, like your friendly neighborhood Scoot Swarm. There are always more Scoot Bugs. Yeah, bunch of Scoot Bugs. Verizol. Yeah. Each mana spent to cast it. That's cool. The second line doesn't matter to us. Realm Seekers does matter. So you get to remove a 1/1 counter, search your library for a land, and reveal it. So it can be any land, not just basic. You can go get your tropical if that's just what you want to do. Bramble Sovereign. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you can pay 2 to get a token copy. But now here is what I love. This is a friend maker because of the wording. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, that creature's controller makes a token that's a copy of it. So you can make friends at a table. Hey, would you like 2 of that? You know, all I ask is blah, blah. Colonian Hydra, obviously a great Hydra. It attacks double the counters. It's beautiful. Hydra Broodmaster. Hydra Broodmaster is a wonderful thing. It becomes monstrous, create the Hydra. So it becomes monstrous. You get the counters. You get the Hydras. Doubling Season loves both of those things. Doubling Season also loves Avenger of Zendikar and Primordial Hydra. Forgotten Ancient. Yes, we're talking 1/1 counters. Now, we also have, I guess you could say these are win conditions, Hangerback and Walking Ballista. But probably our win condition is just the Goose Mother getting nasty with being unblockable with the cloak. You're also going to want to protect her with the boots, one way or another. Heroic Intervention is going to keep her alive, or keep your board alive through the board wipes. Now, board wipes don't always have to be creature board wipes. We have a lot of enchantments, and those destroy all enchantment cards are a monster to deal with too. Because we're playing Simic, we have literally all the toys, right? We have the Evolution Sage, Landfall Proliferate. We have the Flux Channeler, non-creature spell Proliferate, of which we have a lot. We have just good old-fashioned Proliferate on the Contagion class. And then we have Izuri, Stalker of Spheres. Let's look at our Miscellaneous here. Simic Ascendancy is going to, I mean, you can just flat out win games off Simic Ascendancy, just out of nowhere. You can play it and fully loaded in one turn. It's silly. Silly, silly. Rider Replication, because why not? If you've got all these token doublers in here, Rider Replication can be a game-winning card. See, this is why I love Commander. Big, silly plays. Eternal Witness, because it's just a great card. Get you back whatever you lost. Wizard class. I mean, for 1 mana, that first line has me, you know. You have no maximum hand size. Then you get to draw 2 cards. Then, whenever you draw a card, put a counter on. Wizard class is everything Goose Mother wants. Virtue of Strength is another good one. The triple mana. I know. I love it. The ultimate game-winning card, Triumph of the Hordes, because games got to end. That's why. I mean, it does. Games got to end. Now, our removal suite. A lot of this is, in fact, counter magic, because we're going to have a lot of mana. We're going to be able to hold some of that up and, you know, protect our stuff. We need to. We have a swan song. Can I interest you in an offer that you cannot refuse? Arcane Denial. Counterspell. Mana Drain. Mana Drain's a good one, especially early on, because it seems that somebody at every table just gets the draw and they launch out quicker and they play that 5 or 6 drop quicker than anybody else. And if you can steal that mana and use it to play your whatever, it's not a bad thing. Of course, then we have Beast Within, Return to Nature, and if push comes to shove, put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Evacuation, man. That's what I'm talking about. So that brings us to our non-basic lands. So we're going to start with Hinterland Harbor, Reliquary Tower. It's a beautiful breeding pool. Man, I love that art. Got the Shire. Got to have the Shire. Get that food token. I love the art on these, the Restless Lands. Those are also beautiful. And, I mean, they do become a creature. Solving our green mana issue with Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. The Vanglimmer Snarl. Reflecting Pool. I love that Lord of the Rings made a lot of these cards a little more accessible. I really do. Of course, we cannot forget the Command Tower. And lastly, the Rejuvenating Spring. So there's a few cards in there. I realize there are cards I am probably missing, but I play with it. It's a ton of fun. Really is. Love it. And of course, our basic lands, forests and islands. Heavy more toward the forest than anything else. But that is the Mother Goose. I love it. I think it's it's a ton of fun to play. And I appreciate y'all watching. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for liking and sharing and subscribing. And hey, if you're 14 minutes into this video and haven't subscribed, subscribe. There's some weird content here. And there's a couple thousand videos, in the backlog here that have, some of which may strike your fancy. I don't know. Anyway, I appreciate y'all watching, but right now, it is time to shuffle and cut.